Michael Jordan. The mere mention of that name makes the hairs on the necks of most die-hard NBA fans stand up. But over the past couple of decades, some fans and personalities around the game have suggested that there is a challenger to the throne, a certain LeBron James. So who was actually better? What if I were to tell you I had a ton of reasons why MJ was better than LeBron? When it comes to the playoffs, MJ is simply king. James has in fact played in 4 series where he shot less than 40% for the series, whereas our boy MJ averaged 40 points per game in a record-breaking 5 playoff series. Yep, you heard, 5. And if you're looking for any more evidence where scoring is concerned, Jordan accomplished his feat before rule changes made scoring easier. Come on, man, when it comes to scoring, there is simply no question. It's the Bulls legend all day. Some fans are also convinced that the era MJ played in was far better than today's. Yep, older fans will tell you that the era MJ came up in, the 1980s, was far tougher than the one LeBron did in the mid-2000s, and it got even better in the 90s, as that decade saw the level improve yet again. However, Jordan's Bulls reigned supreme, giving you an idea of just how incredible they were. Over the course of the 90s, there were more than 50 and 60-plus win teams than any other decade in history. But that didn't matter to the Bulls. They simply dominated all comers. They would beat 7 60-plus win teams and 20 teams who had won between 50 and 59 games. And when we look at the level of competition in the playoffs, it will again come up all MJ. Out of the 37 opponents Mike played against in the playoffs, 27 of them had more than 50 wins, while 18 out of LeBron's 37 had less than 50 wins. Like, come on. Can you imagine the massacre we would have witnessed if MJ had faced the level of competition that LeBron has? The level of guards Jordan was coming up against in the playoffs was also far superior. I mean, Moncrief, Robertson, Rodman. And need I continue? It's also safe to say that Jordan's all-around game was better than LeBron's too. Yup, Jordan made the all-defense team no fewer than 9 times. LeBron? 5? The class of defenders around when MJ was in his pomp was much better too. Like, dude even won the 1988 Defensive Player of the Year in an era full of superb defenders. Would it be a stretch to suggest that LeBron has a tendency to allow opponents to increase their scoring averages in finals? Nah, not really, right? Defense is just another area where MJ is superior for me. Jordan's knack of showing up when it truly counts was also second to none. I mean, remember when the Bulls great scored 54 against the Knicks in Game 4 back in '93? Yeah, James definitely had the ability to stamp his authority on any given game, but MJ would do it regularly when it really mattered. He proved it again in Game 6 when he showed up in the 4th quarter to keep the Bulls alive. Yeah, you can see by the reaction of the bench who were just in awe of what MJ was doing, as he ensured they all kept it together and didn't panic. James has in the past been accused of going missing in the 4th quarter of games, especially when involved in super close games in the finals. We never saw MJ shrink in the spotlight, and more often than not, he would come up trumps for his team. The same can't really be said about James. And how about James's turnover record, especially in those bigger games? You guys can't really defend him on this one. I mean, 177 turnovers in the finals compared to MJ, who didn't even break 100? LeBron has a tendency to do it at super important times during games too, something Mike could not be accused of. Jordan's ability to close out a game should not be underestimated either. Like, this dude was a monster when it came to tight games and had the nerve and ability to get his team over the line on numerous occasions. You might remember famous examples including the shot and the shot 2, as well as Game 3 in the 1989 East Finals, where he managed to score the winner. There are just loads of examples of this too. I mean, who can forget his shot to tie up Game 3 back in '91, as well as those performances in '97? Yeah, well then we look at LeBron. As good as he is, he simply hasn't had anywhere near as many big moments in big games. It seems as though he suffers from some sort of mental block when it comes to truly turning it on in the games that really matter, an accusation which could never be leveled at the Bulls legend. There are some people who suggest that LeBron might have struggled to play in the 80s or 90s too, and while I'm not completely sold on this idea, it's true that LeBron doesn't particularly excel when coming up against more physical teams in the NBA, right? Might it be that he's just too used to getting what some see as a free pass to the finals every year, thanks to poor opposition? Maybe, just maybe. Another aspect of MJ's game I believe was better was his jump shot. Yup, Jordan was much more reliable when considering this metric, and it can even be suggested that James struggles when forced to make a jump shot. Jordan shot over 50% in 3 NBA finals, while LeBron has done it twice. But MJ never shot less than 40%, whereas LeBron has, twice. Yeah, it's safe to say that LeBron is a true great, and maybe even shades Jordan in a couple of areas, but in the final finals, there is simply the question of who is better. Jordan also had the temperament. It's safe to say that he simply knew he was the star man, and his shoulders were broad enough to handle that massive pressure. Yeah, it has been said in the past that when it truly matters, James will often shirk his responsibility and look for others to make shots and take the game by the scruff of the neck. This was Jordan's wheelhouse, and he never passed up an opportunity to take full responsibility for the team. Time after time after time, he would come up trumps for the Bulls, and if his team were in need of a game-winning performance, it was simply a case of when, not if, MJ would show up. The man just simply had the it factor when it came to digging his team out of a sticky situation. Can't really say the same about LeBron, can we? I mean, even with poor teams, Jordan managed to drag them into the playoffs, right? Like that mid-80s Bulls team was nothing to write home about, was it? But the legendary now Charlotte Hornets owner made sure that they made it to the playoffs. I mean, even in his on-court absence in '86, the Bulls managed to get to the playoffs simply due to his influence around the place. Show me another dude who has that sort of impact on his teammates. I'll wait. LeBron, on the other hand, failed to even make the playoffs in his first 2 seasons. Need I say any more when it comes to MJ's influence on his team members? Nope. Everyone knew the level of player we had on our hands during MJ's prime. And, yeah, he may have come across as slightly arrogant, but he never crowned himself as the best player in the world. The same cannot be said for James, who decided to tell the world exactly what he thought of himself before then shooting a 13 for 32 against the Warriors in Game 6. I mean, talk about speaking too soon, right? MJ simply never needed to do this, as he would let his basketball do the talking. All he had to do was show up and his skills would take care of the rest. Yep, those who know they're great don't need to advertise it to the world. You know what I mean? When you consider the 2 eras these guys played in, it's almost universally accepted that MJ's was tougher. But can you imagine him playing these days? Especially in today's trade era. I mean, the 90s Bulls team was pretty damn special. But if MJ played in today's era, there would be the potential of adding him to a team full to the brim of superstars. I mean, just imagine the prospect of him turning out for a team like the Warriors with Steph, you dig? Yeah, that would have been sensational. Of course, MJ played for the Bulls for almost the entirety of his career, apart from a spell with the Wizards toward the end, but if he was around these days, it's probably safe to say he would have played for a few more teams, right? Like, LeBron has played for 4 teams so far, and he isn't done yet. That's double the amount MJ played for in 20 years. The sheer level of toughness of the dudes MJ came up with in the 80s and 90s is also another reason why he should be commended. Yeah, it could be pretty rough back then, but Jordan could never be accused of flopping. The same can't really be said about James, who's been known to exaggerate contact in the past in a bid to gain fouls. Of course, this is prevalent in sports like soccer, and it seems to have crossed over into the NBA, which is something we could do with getting rid of, and fast. Like, can you really see MJ throwing himself to the floor in a bid to win the favor of the referee? Just wouldn't happen, would it? And, last but not least, Jordan's record in finals is just better. I mean, 6-6? Doesn't get any better, really. LeBron's record, 4-9. Case closed. Yeah, Michael Jordan was a freak of nature, and really, it's unfair on LeBron to compare the two. We'll probably never see anything like MJ ever again, so we should probably stop putting the two up against each other and just enjoy them as separate entities, right?